2 sentences or less per. How do you define religion, and how do you define spiritual?
Well, personal spiritual experience is the definition of religion. I mean, it doesn't get much pithier than that. But of course, in order to understand that, you have to know what personality is, and you have to know what spirit is.
Okay, what's your definition of spiritual then? Like, we just looked it up in Webster's. It's a short definition. What's it say?
See, that's the thing. You can't look up the word truth in Webster's. You can't look up the word spirit in Webster's. You can't look up the word soul. You have definitions in there, but they're all false. I mean, the true meaning of those words has been revealed to us for the first time. No one has had the slightest clue. I mean, I've pointed this out many times. Every language on the planet has a word that's equivalent to spirit in it, and no one knows what the word means. I mean, just look it up in the dictionary. You go, okay, so in other words, they don't know what it means. I mean, it's just blah, 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 blah. It doesn't say anything. Same way with truth. I mean, we're still stuck in Pontius Pilate. Quid est veritas?
Yeah.
What is truth? I mean, no one knows. The true meanings of those words, why humans coined those, has been revealed to us for the first time.
So what I'm trying to ask you, Chris,
so spirit
is what's a 2-sentence answer to what
there's
is
2
spiritual?
substances. There's 2 substances in the universe. That's been revealed to us now.
That's 2 sentences.
Matter and spirit. Okay? Why are there 2 substances? Because there are 2 basic characteristics that need to be made substance. One is the means by which individuality is manifested, and the other is the means by which unity is manifested. Matter is the individuality substance. Spirit is the unity substance.
There you go. 2-word definition.
It doesn't matter how high the spirit being is, the so-called spirit being. If they're an individual, there's some material energy blended in. They're eventuated together, in a homogeneous mixture. I mean, what's an example of beings that don't have a little bit of matter blended in? The beings that are on the eternal sun's world. And what do they say about that? Not only can no one go there, but they know it would be useless because there's no individuality that any individual that would be traveling there could relate to. There's just
no
unity. It's pure unity. And everyone's going, well, how does that even work? It doesn't even make sense. Right? That's... there's many points where they try to stress that, that it's, that's the basic parallel that is being manifested. You have 2 substances. It's just like, the Isle of Paradise, you often think about it, well, that's just about that physics stuff. I can forget about that. No, the only way that you could possibly be individuated is relative to the Isle of Paradise. It's the absolute of individuation. You aren't individuated relative to the eternal sun. Right. And you know it because the eternal sun can't even fragment it himself. Right. Because he's pure unity. Right. Only those beings that have some relationship to individuality can fragment themselves, the third and first sources.
Right. Yeah. So, Chris, following up then, how would you differentiate religion and spirituality?
I think... just as we were talking about that
earlier.
That's the key.
I mean,
a self, your mindal form, that's in your agitated mind, your self, can have a spiritual experience. It can, because matter. I mean, you have matter here and spirit here, the 2 substances, and mind is an energy that connects the 2 substances. So your self is in this mind, and it impinges upon spirit. It can experience spirit. Boink, boink, boink. It's bouncing off of it. Maybe it's even woven into it a little bit. Okay, because they are agitated mind spirits. Yeah. Okay, but personality is not mind pattern. Personality is spirit pattern. Okay, it's up here definitively. That's where it's anchored. And that that patterned spirit substance, like we're saying, can progressively inform the self of a truer and truer shape, but it remains a spirit pattern. Okay, so the self can have a spiritual experience, but only a person can have a religious experience. Only a person. Only someone who has engaged the purposing that comes from the first source and center. See, so a true religious phenomenon is a purposed phenomenon. It's part of the purpose of the universe. It's part of the pattern of the whole. Spirit is just a substance, or if you want to talk about an energy. It's not innately purposed. It's not innately patterned.
Right.
It can carry you off to Lucifer land.
Right.
Okay? Spirit is just, and it's a self, and it's even, not only is it just a substance like matter, but unfortunately it's a self-animating substance. That's the beauty of the boat anchor of matter. At least it's not self-animating. The table just sits there inanimate. Spirit substance does not sit anywhere. It's, that life animation that you have to add to matter is inherent in spirit substance. It's self-animating. If you grab a hold of it, zing, off you go somewhere. So if you haven't first said, well, before I grab a hold of that, I better make sure I pattern it so when it goes with purpose that God wants.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah, you better, because if you just try to grab hold of it with yourself,
Yeah.
off you go.
Yeah. Whoop, where am I?
You want a personal
Back
spiritual,
here.
Yeah, Jason.
or just a spiritual.
Said
That is
spirit
a
is
good way to
unity
say it.
like, and what
Yep.
was the other one?
And matter is individuality. So all this, that's the fun. This is individuality, unity, or maybe individuality likeness, unity likeness, and associative.
Right.
This is the fundamentally associative block between individuality and unity.
So, as we struggle with how to utilize that personally, would you say that your personality is what has to purposefully, I think that was spoken, purposefully come up with those things which are as close as you can be to the Father's will, or is this a way to conceive of personally being spiritual, more and more spiritual?
Well, probably the easiest way to think about what you're putting first, as opposed to what people have put first historically. So you have to put God first in order to discover yourself as a person. If you put yourself first, then that's all you'll have.
So
You'll have humanism.
Say you reach the point where you put God first.
Yeah. If you put God, if you just consciously say, I choose to make God the nucleus of all that I am, if you just choose that, you will begin to manifest a more personal phenomenon. It's not like you have to understand all of this very complex stuff. What's the exact nature of the first source and center, so that I understand. You can't understand the nature.
No.
This is a pattern of the first source and center. You're not going to understand it. So you have, but
you
God has
keep
given, by
searching.
grace, God has given you that gift, and you can actualize it without having to understand it first. Just choose. Demonstrate. Doing the will of God is nothing more or nothing less than an exhibition of creature willingness to share the inner life with God. That's the only thing you have to do.
And in that sense, you're
You
completing
will.
the search, and you are exhibiting the benefits of
If
that.
I'm putting God first, that means I'm always going to be reflecting instead of just thinking.
Is that somehow a definition of spirituality, or?
Well, see, again, spirituality, just in and of itself, is just a different type of energy.
All right.
I can use the fourth adjutant, which is an individuality-like adjutant, the spirit of knowledge. Or I can use a unity-like adjutant, a very spiritual-like adjutant, the spirit of worship. Okay, but you have neither knowledge nor worship as a mere self. Those are personal phenomena. Without your personality, it's just going to be zeal. Spirit, that fact of zeal being manifested, that only comes about because the self has engaged spirit energy. Material energy can't, no combination of atoms produces zeal. It's not a property of atoms. Zeal is a property of spirit substance. So humans are zealous because they've brought in spirit substance. You're spiritual, but are you innately divine?
No.
Spirit is not innately divine. It's a substance. That table's not innately divine either. It's just a substance. That's one of the key things. There's a long-standing assumption, it's because of the Lucifer Manifesto.
It is divine.
The third principle of the Lucifer Manifesto is that mind and spirit, as energies, are innately divine. So you don't have to worry about that whole ascension career and all that moving towards divinity. You're innately divine because you're made out of substances that are innately divine. That's a sophistry. That's the third principle of the Lucifer Manifesto. We have to stop thinking that. Spirit is just a substance, and it's by no means innately divine. It's highly destructive in the wrong hands. It's what causes true evil and pain. You don't have evil without spirit substance.
Yeah, think about that.
See, that's the only way evil comes in. Evil is a phenomenon relative to spirit. With just mind, all you can have is error. To get evil in there, you have to be, wrongly utilizing spirit energy.
Okay.
Like animation with no purpose. It's got random animation.
Or a false
We call it evil when it has this, when it's an affront to the unity of things. That's evil. If it's just a wrong association, that's an error. But if it's in direct conflict with the unity of all things, that's evil. And if you're choosing that, that's sin. Okay? Yeah, it has to have a spiritual character in order for there to be evil. That's why animals can't be evil. They don't have the sixth adjutant, let alone any higher spiritual energies they can abuse like we can.
Spiritual energy abuse.
Yeah. And it's always catastrophic because it's self-animating substance. You try to abuse, this table. It's really heavy. Okay, I could maybe wield it one time, and then I'm going to be so exhausted. I'm not going to be able to pick it up again. So I'm not going to be able to perpetuate that. But spirit is self-animating, so it just goes and goes and goes and goes and just lays waste. That's why. As soon as Lucifer grabbed a hold of spirit substance falsely, it produced the orgy of darkness and death. Not just a couple of broken tables or something, or a forest that got cut down or something. I mean, the orgy of darkness and death. Only spirit can do that. Only spirit can, lay waste, because it's unity-like. So it doesn't even, just hit here. It hits everywhere. It just decimates because of its unity-likeness.
Yeah.
My father would have disagreed with you about animals not being evil.
Well, and again, they can be very self-centered, if they're a carnivore, and we can anthropomorphize them as being. But just to recognize they just have mind. So don't endow them with spirit, because if you do, then how you can understand the difference between humans and animals?